Welcome into the third episode of the Inverted Microphone Podcast. I'm Rees, Goodall, joined here by Zach Dworaczyk and Joa'o, Lara. Zach, we'll start with you. How are you doing today, buddy?
It's a great day, man. I mean, yeah, nothing much more to say.
You never
It's a great
say
day to
too
talk about
much when I
football.
ask you how your day's going. Joa'o, hopefully you'll give me a little more than that.
Honestly, I'm really excited. Days pass and the Premier League is closer to coming back, so I mean that's always a plus. And then not just that, Heung-min son to LAFC, something we're gonna talk about today, makes me really really happy. But glad to be here today.
But before we get to that Son transfer that you mentioned, we've got a jam-packed show talking about the Premier League transfer window, which feels like it's never going to end, and it feels like a different story comes out every day. Then go to the MLS transfers that Joa'o brought up, and then the Ballon d'Or nominations came out today, including the Ballon d'Or, the Kopa Trophy for the Young Player of the Year, and Keeper of the Year award, which has some interesting names on the list, both good and bad. But we'll get the ball rolling with Manchester United. They have agreed a deal in principle with RB Leipzig from the German Bundesliga for Benjamin Sesko for a deal worth £74 million, including add-ons. Joa'o, I just want to get your quick thoughts on what you think Sesko can bring to the team and what your thoughts are on the $74 million transfer fee.
I mean, 74 million, it's really hefty, right? Especially for someone who isn't prem proven. I think that it's a little scary. It's going to put some people off initially cuz that's a lot of money. Now, I think that he has a lot of physical characteristics that make him very different. He's very agile. His physical levels they're insane. I mean, his jumping, his balance, everything just added up. There's a lot of potential there, but it's really up to Man United to try to see how are they going to fit him in the system and what can he bring to the table.
I love the physicality that he brings overall. I mean, we've seen his vertical leap. He's played basketball in the past. I mean, I sent Joao a video earlier. He's quite the basketball player, and I think he brings an aerial element to the squad that just hasn't been there in the past, that hasn't been there with Rasmus Højlund, you know? And I think Amorim is doing a great job with his physical talent ID and getting players who are prim proven. I know Šeško isn't, but he's physical. He can win in the air, and he's going to bring a different degree to this United attack.
You know, you two both voiced quite a lot of positives regarding this signing. I don't think I feel that same exact way as you two, because this is a player that, as you mentioned, he's not prem proven. He's really not that proven at the highest of levels. He had a great game against Liverpool in the Champions League a year ago. He had a good time in the Bundesliga, but you really look at the numbers he had. Didn't have more than 15 goals in either of his two seasons in the Bundesliga. Was just shy of those marks, to be fair. 14 goals, 13 goals last season, 14 the year before. He's overperforming his expected goals, so it's not like he had a lot of chances to work with. And that's really what fascinates me the most regarding this signing is the goal scoring ability from him sustainable at this higher level?
And I think that's really also dependent on the pieces you have around you. Honestly, there's a lot of ifs and buts and maybes. But, I mean, he's done great things in the Champions League, too. He had a couple of contributions there. It's just really, what is everyone around him going to add up? And that's what really excites me. I think Man United, in the attacking part of the midfield, they've done what they needed to do. They brought in Cunha, they brought in Mbermo, and obviously you have a great midfielder in Bruno Fernandes, too. I mean, it's all going to be dependent on that, too. It's once again, this is just one of these things. It's a wait and see. There's no definite answer to your question right now.
I think Rees brings up a really good point in this because United as a squad last year, they massively underperformed their XG. And so in this transfer window, United have targeted three guys who massively overperformed their XG. And I think that's really important to note and something that could be a huge development going into United's season.
Well, in fairness to Brian Mbeumo, it's not like he does this every single season. The last couple of years, he's really hovered right around his expected goals number, scoring 9 in 2022-23 and the year after 23-24, where his expected goals number was 9.6 and 9.8 respectively. This year, he massively overperformed that, and that also brings up a point in my head: is this a one-off for Mbeumo, or is this what he is going to become? I mean, he's 24, he's young enough, that he can still blossom. On Cunha, he's another guy where I kind of have these same worries with, as I do with Sesko, is, Cunha scored 15 off 8.6 expected goals. That's a big overperformance from him. And in a team where he was pretty much the main forward, the main attacking link for anything this Wolves team was doing, which was not much, to be fair, but that's a big overperformance. And again, I worry about how that will transition to a top team in the Premier League.
And I think it's just, obviously, as a manager, you see these issues, right? And you ask these questions too. I think that these pieces were brought in on purpose. I think that these are finally transfers that make sense, especially with what is sort of existent in Manchester United. I've said it multiple times talking with you guys just randomly, but it's Man United has some pieces. They have some pieces they need to build around. You have your Fernandes, you have your Ahmad, you have your Kobe. There's just a few more tweaks you need, and I think that even then, if these players don't have a phenomenal season in terms of goals, where they don't surpass that expected goals tally again, they'll add up. And I think that it'll be a team effort really this season.
Right now, overall, I like the squad going forward. I like the squad in the attack, but I'm just so worried about the midfield and wheeling out Manuel Ugarte out there to fail week in and week out. I mean, we saw him in the summer performance against Everton. Just a terrible performance from him outright. I think he'd even admit it himself. But United need to bring somebody to shore up that midfield and make sure this squad is balanced overall.
It is a friendly, though, Zach. I'm going to caveat with that point. It's really only for fitness, so I'm not going to put too much stock into the performance. But United are looking at an addition in midfield for a very cheap price tag in potentially 100 million. Carlos Balaba from Brighton. He's a very interesting player. He's 21 years old, very good defensively, but I do feel that he kind of shies away in the big game, shies away in these Big Six ties. And as a United fan, I'm not a United fan, but as United, you've got to be worried that, you're getting this player who can't play that well in big games. When you're a big team, you're going to have a lot of these big games. But then again, he's still so young, and the potential is most certainly there.
Yeah, and I mean, I totally agree. And just looking at him statistically, I mean, he's pretty high up there in many categories. I mean, he's been great in interceptions, which is really what Man United is going to use him for, sort of that defensive role. He's been great at blocking too. He's in the 90th and 85th percentile there. He's been great at successful take-ons too, topping the 88th percentile also. So, I mean, it's going to be things that take time, but even then, you said it yourself, it's just he's gonna have to grow. That price tag is scary, but I think he would need just a little bit more to be worth it, but also it's a big investment towards the future.
I think the price tag overall right now too is just a bit inflated. I mean, when you're dealing with Brighton, you're always gonna have to pay a hefty price. I mean, we saw in Caicedo negotiations, we saw how ridiculous it could get at times, and if you want him this summer, I think the price is going to have to be around the 100 million mark. Now, I think United should operate on a basis that 100 million is the absolute max you're willing to pay. I think anything over is just ridiculous. But you're going to have to pay a pretty penny to get a talent like Baleba this early in this window.
To me, though, I don't feel that this is a move that United should be making. I feel like you should spend 100 million combined on a couple of pieces. Maybe not guys that are going to be on the team of the year come the end of the season, but guys that, are serviceable, will be really good in the Premier League. I mean, Arsenal signed Zubamendi for 50 odd million this transfer window. I know Manchester United's pool isn't quite like it was because, the Champions League play isn't there. The trophies haven't been there. Competing in Europe really hasn't been there these last few seasons. But I still feel that they should look for pieces that aren't this sum of money. And I think, again, I will always be skeptical about 100 million plus signing, because you look at all the 100 million signings in history, look how many of them have not been worth it. There is a small handful out of a growing list that has been worth that 100 million price tag.
And okay, so if he's not worth the 100 million, if they should go for other pieces, then who should Man United go for? It's this growing question, and it's just obviously you say, oh, spend money on that pieces, but who are those pieces? What players would you give that benefit of the doubt to be like, oh yeah, they're totally worth 50 million?
I'm not a scout. I'm not working for United scouting department or analytics department. But I just struggle to believe that there are too many players in the modern game that have really been worth 100 million. I mean, Declan Rice and Caicedo are really two of the very few that have been worth it, and Caicedo at the start wasn't worth that fee.
I think that's an absolute fair point, and I really am curious to see what United prioritizes to close out this window, because as we've seen, United still need it to bring in somebody to give Onana competition in the goalkeeper room. I'm interested to see how that works out, and I'd like to see a few more links in the midfielder department. I mean, sure, having Baleba is nice, but like Joa'o was saying, I'd love to see some more names linked that could have a cheaper price tag or could be just as useful as Baleba.
And it's just the issue here also with Manchester United, I think, is that they're trying to invest early. I said it earlier. It's if Baleba has another good season, he could be off to wherever he practically wants. And I mean, that move could be in the Premier League, and the price tag, who knows, could be similar, if not even more. And it's I don't think it's crazy to say either.
Before we pivot, I just want to take a look at every transfer that's been £100 million, Great British pounds, and just judge it. It's only been 10 that have been pounds. If you look at euros, that's a whole nother thing, but this transfer's in pounds, and we're not Liverpool, so we're not changing the currency. The number one, £200 million, Neymar to PSG. Not worth it. All right. 165.7 million for Mbappe to PSG. Skeptical, you could flip a coin on it. You didn't win a Champions League, so I'd say it's not worth it. Joao Felix to Atletico Madrid, 113. Not worth it. Enzo Fernandez, 106 to Chelsea. Not worth it. Antoine Griezmann, 107 to Barca. Not worth it. Felipe Coutinho, 105 to Barca. Not worth it. Jack Grealish, 100 flat to City. Not worth it. Florian Wirtz, 100 flat to Liverpool. Flip a coin. Who knows how that'll be. And then Declan Rice and Moises Caicedo. It's why I'm so skeptical about transfers for that much money. I mean, you look at that list. It's 2 players, maybe 3 if you factor in Mbappe, that have been worth 100 million and have really just succeeded at their club, and you're not asking questions about that fee. And that's why I do have quite a bit of concern about this signing. We'll go now to a departure for United. Alejandro Garnacho could be on the move to Chelsea. I'm surprised Chelsea want him. I've really applauded Chelsea's transfer targets over the last few weeks. I mean, bringing in Xavi Simons or potentially bringing him in, rather. We'll get to him in a second. They brought in Joa'o last week. They've made some decent moves, but this just feels like a step back for Chelsea.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't understand it. I think that Garnacho, he had flashes last season and possibly a season before, but I don't see the vision there. I don't see really how he'd fit in the squad. And it's just, even then in the locker room too, it's just, he caused a couple of problems this season, and it's just, how are you as an institution going to see a player like Garnacho and say, oh, well, he's had his problems, and say, oh, yeah, we're still going to go out and try to pursue him? I don't understand it, really.
And I agree with Joao in that sentiment. I just can't understand a serious club bringing in Garnacho in this day and age with his brother, the amount his brother talks online, with the amount that he and his family and his party have been leaking United squad sheets to the media early. I mean, that's a big character concern. And his talent, while there is flashes, it just isn't consistent anywhere near consistent enough to justify the issues that he brings from a locker room aspect.
Nor does the transfer fee, because it sounds like it's going to be north of 40 million, potentially even as much as 50 million pounds. I really, really do not understand this from a Chelsea perspective. Yes, I understand they're making sales. You know, they just sold Kieran Dewsbury Hall to Everton. They're going to sell Nico Jackson to Newcastle, Spurs, or some Italian clubs, it sounds like. But I just don't understand why you would shell out that much money for a player who hasn't been that great. He's shown promise, like we've mentioned, but it hasn't been there for an extended period of time, and it really hasn't amounted to much at a genuine quality level. I just do not understand this one bit from Chelsea.
And I mean, as someone who was very hopeful on Garnacho initially, I mean, I'm disappointed in the downfall, really, and I think that this window should have been for Garnacho to go to possibly a smaller club, if not somewhere in Spain or somewhere out, and try to redeem himself. But it's just, this has failure written all over it, if I'm going to be brutally honest.
Yeah, no, and I think it'd be very similar to them acquiring Sancho from us last window. I think he would probably be, a squad depth option rather than a starter. But I just can't understand paying that price tag for it, bringing in the potential issues that come with Garnacho for that price tag. I can't understand that whatsoever.
Conference League winner Jadon Sancho to you. He won a European medal, unlike United. We'll pivot now to the Nico Jackson sale. It sounds like Newcastle want him. It sounds like Spurs, and I've mentioned multiple Italian clubs per Fabrizio Romano's reports. It's interesting because, I just don't. He's kind of Chelsea's Garnacho in a way, where he's not very good. There was promise, but it just never amounted to much. I mean, I think back to the game when they played Tottenham away. Chelsea played Tottenham away. Tottenham went down to 9 men. He scored a hat trick, but he genuinely should have had 9-10 goals in that game, and that's not an over-exaggeration. Nico Jackson had so many chances in this match and failed to put away so many. It was genuinely one of the worst hat tricks I've ever seen in my life. And we've spoken before about how he started the Club World Cup as the number one striker. By the end of the Club World Cup, in just a month, he was the third string. From Spurs' perspective, it would make sense if Richarlison leaves, which is a rumor as of now, from Newcastle, because they've missed out on Sesko, they've missed out on Ekitike, they've missed out, or they're going to lose out on Isak to Liverpool. It's something, but where do you think the most likely landing spot for Nico Jackson will be?
It has to be Newcastle. If not, maybe somewhere random in this area, but it's just... For Newcastle, this is devastating. I think you go from Isak, you go from such a high quality player to Nico Jackson, who has his inconsistencies. I feel like that's the spot for him, and it's very ironic, especially this transfer window.
For a club who has Champions League football, I think going from Isak to Nicolas Jackson as your possible starting striker, I think it's terrible. I mean, you can't do that and expect success as a club. You have to find some sort of other alternative. But to me, I likely see Nico Jackson landing at Newcastle. I think that's just where everything's headed at this point.
Yeah, I mean, for Newcastle, you'll have to feel for them, as we've mentioned, just going from Isak to Nicolas Jackson. Chelsea are continuing their business, though. It is Xavi Simons from RB Leipzig RB Leipzig's attack's kind of been blown up. I mean, we talked about Sesko earlier in the show. Xavi Simons is quite a quality signing. I mean, he was one of those really big wunderkinds when he was so young. I mean, you saw him with Barcelona, then he moved to PSG, and it felt like this kid was destined to be at the very top. It hasn't quite gone his way professionally. I mean, he was with PSV, was solid there. It was been very good for RB Leipzig. But a move to Chelsea really, really bolsters their attack, bolsters their midfield. But I have questions about, again, the transition to the Premier League. But 50 million, I think, is kind of a steal where it's 50 million. You can almost write it off at the end of the day if it doesn't go your way.
Yeah, and I think it's a reasonable price. It's just I'm very skeptical. Once again, 16 goal and assist contributions last season for RB Leipzig. It's just there's a lot of big questions out there, and then possibly, I feel like also Christopher Nkunku, when he got to Chelsea, he had this big promise, or at least that's the way I saw it, where he could have done a lot of great things for his squad, but quite simply doesn't show up. But I think that price tag is a big safety net.
Yeah, and I think he'll be an interesting complement to Cole Palmer on the attack. I think he brings kind of a different level to Chelsea's attack. And for the price tag, I think you absolutely have to do it. I think the potential is still obviously there. He's shown it at Leipzig. Who knows how well that's going to transfer to the Prem, but I think it's well worth it for the price tag.
Well, we'll talk now about some news that we just got as we're recording the show. Levi Colwill has torn his ACL. He will miss the entire season. This opens up a hole in Chelsea's back line. I know Trevor Chalobah is likely going to be inserted back there after a loan move away to Crystal Palace. But now, do you maybe target Mark Guehi too? I mean, you have the whole Hato. Is he really ready? Who knows? I mean, if you go for Guehi, he has a decision to make, and it's really Newcastle or Chelsea. And where would he go between those two?
I think that Chelsea. I mean, you have the opportunity to play with a promising side, and I mean, this squad has lots of upside, and I think that would be the move for Guehi, right? Reasonably, but it's very unfortunate for Colwill here, and it's just let's see how Guehi would complement this side too. It's very promising for Chelsea, and I think that it adds on to even better transfer window than most teams.
I mean, first off, that's just terrible for Levi Colwill. But secondly, I really wonder if this brings on a transfer, like a panic buy in the window for Chelsea. I really wonder who they could target. I mean, I think Guehi is a great option, but could we see them splash cash and panic buy somebody?
It's Chelsea, so I'm going to say yes, they will panic buy. I mean, there's nothing more they love than spending money. So, if they're given a reason to spend money, they're going to spend money. Very fascinating to see what's been going on with Chelsea. Another team that's fascinating, for better or for worse, is the reigning champions, Liverpool. They just sold Darwin Nunez, the failed striker from Benfica, for $46 million to Al Hilal. Questionable move because of the links with Saudi Arabia and Newcastle's links with Saudi Arabia as they're pursuing Alexander Isak. Won't get too much into that, but for Liverpool, it has to feel good getting $46 million out of a striker who just never panned out for you guys.
I don't know how they get away with this. I've said it 3 episodes in a row, and it's starting to frustrate me. I don't know how they keep getting away with this. It's honestly good for them. Good for them. It's good business. It adds on to the opportunity to get Isak, and I think net spend they've done pretty well too. They've had I think it's around the 40 million with all the transfers they've done this summer too. So and they're supposed to supposedly sell Elliott too. So it helps out with Isak too, and it keeps them in the positives for expenditures.
Yeah, I just can't understand. I can't understand the business Liverpool and Chelsea have been able to make this summer and the departures aspect of it. I feel like they've just absolutely had some bargains. I mean, Joao Felix, that was an absurd transfer. Luis Diaz, the transfer fee there was absurd. Darwin's obviously absurd. I thought Nani Madueke's transfer fee was absurd from Chelsea. I don't understand how they keep getting away with this, both of those sides.
Well, for Liverpool, the reason they keep getting away with it is because they're going to drop the capita, the GDP of some small countries on Alexander Isak. Not even small, probably middle of the road countries on Alexander Isak. I mean, that deal is going to be worth so much money that, I mean, you can't even get that much money if you're playing Monopoly. That's how much it's going to be worth. I mean, obviously it's a quality player. Obviously he wants to leave Newcastle, but how much money is too much money for a player, you know?
These days, I think you said it earlier, the 100 million Great British pounds. These days, it's a lot of money, and these players that you've listed off, they were great players at their clubs. I mean, Coutinho was absolutely amazing. Neymar was absolutely amazing, and it's just, I think 120. I think 120. That's when you start crossing a line, because it's just you're just throwing money at that point.
Finished, there's only been 2 signings north of 120, 3 signings north of 110, but yeah, I mean, this Isak signing, you almost need him to score every single game for this fee to make sense. I mean, if it is 120, that is so, I mean, that's the third most expensive transfer in football history.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, I think 125's the absolute bounds, the absolute max you spend on Isak. From what I've seen, Liverpool fans have been talking about using Isak sparingly in the Prem and using Ekitike more in the Prem and saving Isak for the Champions League, which is just absurd to me, because there's no way you go out and splash that much cash for a guy you're only using in one competition. That's just ridiculous. This is ridiculous money to be throwing at a player. But if it's going to be anybody, I think Isak is worth it.
Zach, I think you need to stop spending so much time on Twitter. You're getting involved with some wild communities. We'll pivot now to the team we finished in second place, Arsenal. They haven't made a move in the time since our last podcast, but they're looking to make moves, which is enough for us to talk about. Fabio Vieira, the midfielder, we've mentioned how Arsenal need to sell him because they need to recoup cash because they've spent so much money. Sounds like they finally have a suitor. It's going to be Stuttgart in the Bundesliga. Could be anywhere from 20 to 35 million. Honestly, anything above 28, and I think it's a good move. They're also looking to sell Sambi Lakanga. Albert Sambi Lakanga, he's another midfielder, never worked out. There's a few other pieces from Arsenal they're looking to sell. It needs to happen sooner rather than later because, as we're going to talk about here, they have some targets and they have some holes that they need to fill, and that's namely on the left wing. I'm sure you guys didn't, but if you watched the Arsenal friendly versus Villarreal, you watched Arsenal play a very interesting 90 minutes of football, but you saw them struggle very much so on the left wing, and that was pretty much Gabriel Martinelli's match that he had, and it's kind of the expectation you kind of see with him. You don't really expect too much with him anymore. So they're targeting Crystal Palace's Eberechi Eze. They've been doing that for a while. Who knows how much progress has actually been made? There's different reports coming out on the release clause. Apparently the release clause expires not too soon after the Premier League season begins. So who knows how quickly that deal progresses. But more talks have come out of them pursuing Ademola Lookman, the Nigerian international from Atalanta. Atalanta are looking to get rid of him. It's a fascinating deal, that one would be. It's not as versatile as Eze, but it is quality. I mean, admittedly, he did struggle in the Champions League last season, but you look at their campaign when they won the Europa League, he was dominant in that run.
I mean, he's played well in one of the most physical, at least offensive leagues in Europe. I mean, he's gotten over 15 goals and assists past 3 seasons. I think his low in the past 3 seasons has been 18, and that was a 23-24 season. Could be good business for Arsenal. It's just he's also had a couple of spells here in the Premier League, at least 2 of them, where he played 20 games, and it might have, it was the Premier League. He played around 30 games, and he only managed to get, I think it was 8 combined goals and assists in one of those seasons. So I mean, there's a big doubt there. And I mean, if you can go for Eze, go for Eze. Lookman isn't a bad player. He's done great things. He's been absolutely phenomenal, but it's just there's those red flags already. He's played in the Prem, hasn't had success. What questions do you ask there?
And as Joa'o was saying, there are some serious red flags. I mean, the most he's ever scored, or the last time he was in the Prem, he scored eight goals in
6 goals,
the Prem.
rather.
6.
But he's had so much success in the Serie A, and for the price tag you're going to pay for him comparatively to Eze, I think it's worth a look at least. I think this Eze deal should be cut and dry, and I think Arsenal should really get a move on with it. But if you can't, Lookman's a fine alternative, you know?
Looking at Lookman's Premier League campaign, since both of you mentioned it, he spent time with Everton as a youngster, only had 1 season with more than 10 appearances. He made 21 in the 2018-19 campaign. As a 20-year-old, he tallied 2 assists. Granted, he only started 3 games in only 618 minutes. He moved to RB Leipzig, then he came back to the Premier League, 1 season with Fulham, 31 starts. Only tallied 4 goals, 4 assists as Fulham were relegated. Year after with Leicester, started 16 of 26 appearances. Only 6 goals, no assists. Then, obviously, the last 3 seasons with Atalanta has been north of 18 goals and assists in each season. To me, though, I still think that Eze is the signing for Arsenal. That's the guy that you need to get because, I mean, he's an Arsenal kid through and through. I mean, he was with the academy, got dropped, of course, but he's always shown love to the club. And I think it's not even that. It's not even that personal connection that makes me think that that's who Arsenal's going to get. It's rather, he's such a good player. The versatility, we've mentioned it so many times. Mikel Arteta loves these versatile players that can play here, there, and everywhere. Eze is a guy that does that perfectly, on the left, centrally, and the right. So I think that is the signing that just makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a match made in heaven. It's just those alternatives, man. There's a drop. There's a drop from Prem Proven, and then obviously you have someone who's explosive, someone who can make a change. It's just Arsenal need to get their stuff together. Season starting up soon. They really need to get something going. If not, they're gonna suffer this first half of the season.
I don't know if "suffer" is the right word. I mean, it will be a little bit dry, but they've spent so much money. They brought in a striker, they brought in the midfielder, they filled those 2 holes, they brought in depth, which they didn't have over the last few years. Noni Madueke is serviceable to an extent on the left wing. And I really don't think it'll be a struggle. I just think it won't be as pretty as it's been in year past.
Yeah, and I just think that this Eze situation is too cut and dry for y'all to miss on this. I mean, an academy kid, he's so versatile, which, as you've talked about in the past, that fits Arteta's needs. And he fills a need on the left wing. I don't think there's a way around this that y'all don't get this deal done. I mean, I see it as an absolute necessity. And even then, he offers y'all Odegaard a replacement if y'all decide to move on from him, say next window.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything you said there. We'll pivot now to talking about 2 teams that aren't having as good a transfer windows, Aston Villa and Newcastle United. Aston Villa, they've done quite a bit of complaining online from their Twitter fans, which, Twitter can be a mental place. But you look at Aston Villa's record. I mean, they missed out on Champions League play last year, so they don't have any large sum of money coming in. They've only spent £6 million on a 19-year-old, so that's all they've spent. But they've got a huge wage bill. They've got loads of players over 100,000 a week, and if you're not in Champions League football, you're just wasting money. You're burning your money. And, qualifying for a Champions League a couple years ago, big accomplishment. They invest in the squad. You got to go out and, earn the investment, or not earn the investment, but, make the investment worth it. And to go out and miss out on Champions League last year, it's just a big, big loss. And they're certainly going to have to sell to be able to spend because of their wage bill. It's terrible business from Aston Villa.
Yeah, I mean, it's just people don't understand that their squad's inconsistencies don't affect other teams. It's honestly, it's Villa's fault for having that huge wage bill. It's Villa's fault for not being able to plan effectively and create a squad that's consistently in the Champions League, that's consistently fighting for those top spots. And it's just it's very unfortunate, right? But there's nothing else you can do besides just really, cope, manage, wait, and then just see what happens with this next season, and just hope your team does, what you want them to do.
And I hate that this whole discussion has come down to, the Big Six cartel, or
The
discussions
red cartel.
of PSR. I think it all boils down to poor wage management from Villa's staff. I think this is just cut and dry. I think you built a squad that made the Champions League one season and didn't in another, and can't maintain that level of wage without the Champions League. And I think this all just falls back on Villa's staff and their ownership and poor planning.
I mean, you look at Newcastle's their wage bill, it's nowhere near as bad as Aston Villa's. I mean, yes, they have guys over 100,000, but I mean, they've been competing at the top. Their issue there is, we've talked about it so many times, is nobody seems to really want to go there. Yes, they brought in Anthony Elanga, but it feels like anytime they go for a player in not a Premier League club, a Big Six club comes calling. I mean, like, you talk about Kudus, you talk about potentially even Mark Guehi now, Benjamin Sesko, all these different names come to mind. When these Big Six clubs come calling, they're picking up the phone to them and hanging up on Newcastle.
And it's just, I don't know if I think United is interesting, right? It's obviously a big name club, and that's why a lot of players go. But also, do players just see a lack of a project in Newcastle? Do they see what do you guys think are the biggest factors that are limiting these players from really going to Newcastle? Because the money is there. Obviously, the money is there, and there's been multiple fans on multiple occasions saying, "Oh, we're the richest club in the world, but we can't sign anybody." And obviously, there's that clear frustration. But what do you see? What do you think is causing these problems for Newcastle besides location? Because I think we've discussed that on multiple occasions on this podcast.
To me, I just think it comes down to, at the end of the day, brand recognition. Players from outside of England, they see these clubs coming and knocking. You're not going to choose Newcastle over a club with the global name recognition of Manchester United or of Chelsea or of Arsenal or of Liverpool. I mean, you're not going to choose to go to Newcastle over these Big Six clubs simply due to the brand recognition, the name recognition. You can brag to all your friends and family like, "Oh, I'm playing for Manchester United." It doesn't necessarily hit the same when you say, "Oh, I'm playing for Newcastle." There's just a difference.
And to go off of that, feels like every time Arsenal makes a signing, there's a picture posted of whoever they signed in an Arsenal shirt from when they were 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And the same with United. Not so much the same with the other Big Six clubs, but again, they have these brand recognitions. They go on tours and get fans for a lifetime in America and Asia, across the globe. There are fans of these Big Six clubs everywhere. I know Newcastle had the movie Goal, but again, that's not doing that much in this day and age. I mean, that's almost 20 years old. Great movie though, but again, it's not putting Newcastle on the map like that.
Then what do you think they have to do besides, they're trying to do what they can right now with the signings they've had. Obviously, they have Elanga, we've talked about Ramsdale, and now, there's not that much hope there. What do you think Newcastle has to do as an institution in order to make these players say, oh yeah, I want to go play for Newcastle?
I think they need to change their transfer approach. I think they kind of need to recognize the situation they're in, and instead of trying to sign these guys that are established in the Premier League, sign these guys that, you know, have proven themselves, I think they need to sign guys that they're willing to give a longer leash to, you know, kind of become a Brentford-esque team where, you know, it's much more of a money ball. Yes, you can still spend big, but look for guys that, you know, other Big Six teams, other teams in the Premier League might not consider. Be smart about who you're signing rather than just going for the big names.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. I don't think you have to splash cash with every signing. I think they should just, as a whole, as a group, target buy low on players who obviously have talent, give them longer deals, give them longer leashes, and give them a chance to prove themselves in the Prem. And also offer yourself to even be a stepping stone in some capacity. Say that, oh, we can get you to a bigger club if you come and play for Newcastle and you give us your all for a few years.
Exactly, and that would help with PSR regulations too. You could be able to spend more money because you're selling more players. If that's the approach that Newcastle go down, if that's the road they go down, that would really help them in all facets. You know, they'd be able to invest in their ground, in their academy, able to really just boost the whole club. Instead, it just feels like they're trying to sign, you know, the top players, like the MLS is doing currently. How's that transition? $25 million for Heung-min to join LAFC, a record transfer for MLS. Joa'o, what's your thoughts there on Tottenham's finest?
I think that first of all, it's a great signing for LAFC. They held out, I think it was 2 years for Antoine Griezmann, and it really affected the quality of the squad. And they waited on Griezmann to bolster the attack after losing Carlos Vela, and even then after Carlos Vela's level dropping after his MVP season. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's good business too. It's definitely going to sell jerseys. It's going to get fans in the stands too. Los Angeles has one of the biggest South Korean populations in the United States, so I think it's smart overall. You bolster your attack. You're bringing in more revenue. I mean, what else can you ask for, really?
I don't think there's much to be said that hasn't already been said. I think Son's time at Tottenham was up. I think he started to show some levels of regression in the last year. And I think this is a good move for LAFC from both a financial standpoint and the revenue that they're going to bring in from the new fans made through this, but also from the play on the pitch. I think this could be really interesting going forward. And I think this could add a different sort of level to LA's attack.
You know, just off the pitch, it offers a whole nother realm of things that LAFC can do. I mean, you look at what Inter Miami has done with their preseasons. I know Messi's 10 times bigger than Heung-min, but, you know, they've gone down to Argentina a handful of times. They've gone to Saudi Arabia. They've gone on these kind of worldwide tours. You could do that with LAFC. I mean, you'd go to South Korea preseason. Those stadiums will be packed. I mean, they were packed for Tottenham's matches with Heung-min there, and people there certainly just want to see him play, and it makes complete sense if that's the route that LAFC go down.
And I mean, I think it's just great too for LAFC because it finally, I think, can really consolidate them as a championship contender. Obviously, you had Denny Bouanga, who was doing absolutely phenomenally, at least last season. This season, he's been up and down a little, but it's just that great compliment, and it's just it gives LAFC fans something to be happy for, and then something to really look forward to as the MLS season goes on.
Yeah, and branching off of what Rees was saying, this is just so huge for marketing. I mean, we saw how much Tottenham benefited from Son's fan base and from the pull that he has as a player. And I think LAFC could really lean into this with their international tours, with fans even in the U.S. and just in LA. You could bring in so much more from a business aspect as well.
Another team that made a big signing, and I've seen it already have quite the big effect, is Thomas Muller to Vancouver. We talked about it a bit last week, so we won't go too much into it. But, you know, scrolling through Twitter, I've seen numerous German fans, whether it's Bayern Munich or just German national team fans, talk about, you know, their interest in MLS now because Thomas Muller joined Vancouver. Obviously, it's a short-term fan. When the second Muller retires, they're gone. But again, MLS bringing in the dough with these signings.
Yeah, I mean it's really smart once again. And then I did see something from Thomas Muller today saying that Alphonso Davies actually, just guided him in this transfer and let him know everything that Vancouver had to offer. Obviously, Alphonso Davies coming out of the Whitecaps Academy. It's smart. It's smart. It's good. It's something that needs to keep on happening. Just these small transfers that really just cover a niche and sort of get more viewership and more jersey sales to MLS. I think it's really good for the sport, at least here in the U.S.
Branching off what Rees was saying, I think even if it's a short-term fandom, I think this is really good for the sport. I think this is really good for the league that fans from other countries, fans from overseas, are getting to see the product that the MLS has and are getting to see, what MLS is all about. And it's putting a better word out there, even if they're just short-term fans,
I completely agree with that one. Another signing made by Inter Miami, Messi's boys. He brings in one of his many mates, Rodrigo De Paul, almost a security guard, but not his actual security guard. The other two signings we mentioned, those are two that are going to bring in jersey sales. As good of a player as Rodrigo De Paul is, he's probably the second best player in that list, not of all time, or just currently, between Heung-min and Muller. No one's buying a Rodrigo De Paul shirt. All due respect.
There's no market for it. It's not. It makes sense. It makes sense for Messi and trying to keep it. It makes sense for Inter Miami and trying to keep Messi, but there's not really much to say about this. It's just every season, every other season, bring in another one of Messi's old teammates. And
it's not even every other season, every season. It's bringing 2 or 3 of his mates every year.
I think at this point, it's completely pandering to Messi. And I understand it from a club's perspective. I think you kind of have to when you have a player that brings in revenue like Messi does. So you kind of have to pander to him. But the signing kind of doesn't make sense, but it does at the same time. So it feels like a nothing burger to me, really.
Okay. This beckons the question: what happens to Inter Miami after Messi? I feel like we're on the
I don't
point.
even want to know.
What's the thought process, and what do we think is happening after?
It's going to be bad. I know they're opening the new stadium, but I mean, I'm looking at their squad right now. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Argentinians in the squad. Go ahead, get your 6-7 jokes off, Zach. But they have a ton of Argentinians. That's not even including Busquets, Jordi Alba, Javier Mascherano's the manager, another one of Messi's friends. It's something I don't know if it's ever really been seen before outside of like a Sunday league team. It's just it feels like almost an intramural team where you're just getting all your buddies together. The good news for them is they're not bad. It's not like they're stinking up the place, but I just don't know what this looks like the second Messi retires.
I think it'll be an interesting situation, but we were talking about short-term fans earlier. With Messi being there, Inter Miami is now a much bigger brand than a lot of other MLS clubs, and I think we have to take that as a fact. The jersey sales are out there. The Inter Miami shirts are going to be out there in the world, circulating for years, and people are going to remember that. So I think Messi's impact will supersede the club in some way. I don't know about the success on the pitch, but I think impact-wise and revenue-wise, I think we can expect some results there.
We'll see. I mean, that's something we won't see for a decade, realistically. We'll now pivot to our final segment, talk about the Ballon d'Or awards. Previewed it a little bit before. The nominations came out today. Some very interesting names, though. We'll start with the goalkeeper, the Yashin trophy. I have it backwards on our rundown, so I apologize, Zach and Joa'o. I pump faked you. Emi Martinez made the Yashin trophy list. Aston Villa's keeper, Alisson, Donnarumma, the usual suspects, David Raya as well, made the list. But, it's probably going to be Alisson, maybe Donnarumma for the Champions League. It's likely one of those two. But I just want to know, how on earth is Emi Martinez still getting selected to these?
Hey, man, I mean, the last World Cup was absolutely amazing for Emi Martinez. But no, in all seriousness, I think that Gigi Donnarumma should go ahead and take this. I think, in my opinion, besides the issues that he had off the pitch, attitude issues, I think that in my opinion, he was one of the best goalkeepers in Europe. I mean, and it was just those one-on-ones. It was just the shot-stopping ability, too. I think that it ousted Alisson, and I think he's totally deserving of the award.
Really and truly, I think you could just flip a coin between Alisson and Donnarumma. I think it's really pick which you prefer, the Champions League performances or the Prem performances. For many years, I've thought very highly of Alisson. I thought that he's the best keeper in the world at times. But I completely understand if you pick Donnarumma for this award.
And I think back to his performance against Arsenal in the Champions League, where as good as he was throughout the whole run, that second leg where Arsenal were chasing, as poor as Arsenal's attack was in that game in terms of the actual players out there. I mean, McKellar, as the 9 is really the name that comes to mind when you think that. But Arsenal had so many chances that Donnarumma just came up with these mental saves. I mean, Saka curled one into the top left corner that was just a phenomenal save. Just an incredible performance from him in that game. But back to Emi Martinez, the World Cup final, where he made out that an outstanding save, probably one of the best saves of all time. That was 963 days ago, as we're recording this episode live August 7th. That was a very long time ago. We cannot keep living off this one save. You watch him today, you turn on a match Saturday, 3 p.m. kickoff. Let's say it's Aston Villa versus, I don't know, we'll say West Ham. Not a Big Six club, all right? You're going to watch Emi Martinez have a howler. I can almost guarantee it. I'd bet money on it if I was allowed to. And it's just, I don't understand the propaganda that this guy has. I cannot wait until he signs for Inter Miami and see the propaganda that they'll have then.
That takes away a spot from Rocco, though, so I don't know if they'll do that because that's another Argentinian in goal. But
my goat.
But you've said it yourself. It's just the amount of mistakes that Emi Martinez does on a regular basis, and not just that. It's if you're watching him as a fan, sure, his theatrics at times they're entertaining. But the quality of goalkeeping, it's not there, and it's not understandable for him to still be making these short lists. It's just, it boggles my mind, and it fills me up with this sort of anger, because how does this keep happening? I don't understand.
I think what it comes down to is I think the people who are selecting, making these lists and selecting the nominees aren't necessarily watching league matches on a week-to-week basis. And Emi Martinez had one of the most iconic moments probably ever on the world's biggest stage in a World Cup final. So I understand that comes with some propaganda, that comes with some PR. You're going to get some bias for a good bit of time, but what did you say, 936 days? That's just that's ridiculous. It's unexcusable at this point. You have to be better as somebody who is making these ballots. You have to be better.
Well, now an award that's only based off recency, the men's Kopa trophy for the best youngster. Interesting short list. Ayub Buati from Lille, Pau Kubarsi from Barcelona, Desiree Doué from PSG, Chelsea's Esteval, Dean Housen for Bournemouth and Real Madrid, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Arsenal, Rodrigo Mora, Porto, PSG's Joao Neves, Barcelona's Lamine Yamal, Kenan Yildiz from Juventus. It's a very straightforward answer for me on this trophy. It has to be Lamine Yamal. I mean, there's no other player that really comes close. I mean, for second, I think that's where the real race is. I think it could be Doué or Neves, and then Lewis Skelly comes right after them. But Yamal's the certain winner there.
I disagree. I think Joao Neves has the quality and has been phenomenal for PSG to the point where I think he can challenge. Yes, the ball is fun to watch and flashiness. Yes, he's had these absolute great moments. But when you look at the impact on the pitch and what he's done for a PSG side this season, I think João Neves is there. And I think that quite simply, he could be fighting for that spot, for that trophy. And I don't think it's ridiculous. And yes, go ahead with your point.
Yamal had 39 goal contributions across all competitions for a team that won the league, won the cup. I don't know about the Super Cup, but then went to the semifinals of the Champions League.
I just think
he's 17.
Which even then, given that
he's a Ballon d'Or candidate.
You know what? I may have overstepped here. I think you are absolutely correct. But I don't know. I just think the impact João Neves has had, it's you can't overlook it. But you know what? I think you're absolutely correct. I may have overstepped. I may have gotten a little too excited here.
You definitely
just like him because you have the same
just a little
name.
bit.
You
no,
just like
not at all. Not at all.
It's the same reason you like Joao Felix as well.
No.
Zach, what's your thoughts on the Kopa Trophy winner, and if it'll be Lamine Yamal or Joao Neves? As good as Joao Neves is, he's one of the best midfielders in the world. Who do you think it is?
I thought it was going to be somewhat of a hot take to even put Joao Neves as second over Doué, because I didn't know how much y'all would agree with that. And I like Joao talking about Joao Neves' impact, because I think you turn on any PSG match this season, especially in the Champions League, he was a driving force behind them winning. I mean, I feel like that signing was a real turning point in the PSG regime, and I think it's going to go down as one of the better moves a team's made in some time. But with all due respect, it's Lamine Yamal. He's a Ballon d'Or candidate. They won the domestic treble last season. He beat Madrid every match they played each other. They went to the semifinals of the Champions League. He had one of the best performances ever in the second leg against Inter. I mean, I don't think there's any argument for anybody else but him to win this trophy.
That might have been the most I've heard you talk on this podcast. I am glad to hear it. No, honestly, I have overstepped. A bit. I wasn't recognizing the impact Yamal had. That is my fault. I will take my L. But
I will be clipping that and posting it on TikTok. Thank you for the 1 million views. I just cannot believe that what I heard there. We'll talk now about the Ballon d'Or transfer, or not transfer. So used to talking transfers on the show. Ballon d'Or winning candidates. I wrote down as my top 3 some combination of Ousmane Dembele from PSG, Lamine Yamal from Barcelona, and Rafinha also from Barcelona. But it sounds like I need to add Joao Neves from PSG in there, because if he wins the Kopa Trophy, he must be able to win the Ballon d'Or. Again, to be honest, I have Yamal winning this just because I think the hype around him is so much. I do think it probably should be Dembele just because the performance in the Champions League was unreal. But then again, I just don't think you can overlook the Kopa Trophy runner-up per Joao Lara, Lamine Yamal.
I'm never going to be able to live this down.
Never.
No. It's fine.
Never, ever.
I would give it to Dembele, but once again, Ballon d'Or has really been a lot overhyped too, and it's just you cannot just put down what Yamal has done this season. I agree with Rees. Dembele could be it too. I just once again I've overstepped, and I'll accept it.
We heard my little rant about Yamal. I'm very passionate about him. He's truly just a transcendent talent, and I think he should win this Ballon d'Or. I've thought this for months. Even when PSG were winning in the Champions League final, I was still thinking that Yamal should win this award. I'm not going to get mad if Dembele wins it. I'm not going to get mad at you if you say Dembele should win it. But I just think Yamal's impact on Barca winning this season has just been so immense. Regardless of league goal contributions, regardless of any metric, you turn on a Barca match, his impact is next level.
I have a question for you, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
Of the PSG players that have been, shortlisted for this award, there's many. They obviously, won the Champions League, won the domestic, every trophy. I think it came,
of course, yeah,
one game short of winning the title Invincible. But, they've got multiple guys on the short list. Dembele, Donnarumma, Doué. Do you think that Joao Neves has a shout for winning the Ballon d'Or? If he wins the Kopa trophy?
I mean, we've seen crazier things happen in the past. I mean, Rodri just won the Ballon d'Or over Vinny last year. I wouldn't put Joao Neves personally over the top two. I think you could maybe give him an argument over Rafinha, and that's a big maybe then, because we know how much they're going to value goal contributions, and Rafinha was just next level goal contribution wise, especially in Hansi Flick's system. So who knows? I mean, I think Joao Neves could be top 5. I think if he makes top 5, I think it'd be very validated. But I'm not going to outright say he's top 3.
That's fair enough. That's a good take. I like to hear good takes when I listen to podcasts and when I'm on podcasts as well. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this third episode of the Inverted Microphone podcast. They say it takes 3 times to form a habit, so well done, guys. We formed a habit, unlike last time we tried making a podcast. Well, Joao, where can they follow you on Twitter to hear more of your Joao Neves propaganda and more awful football takes?
Joao reports, and I promise I've overstepped. Won't happen again. I'll take a moment next time.
To think. Yeah, to use your noggin. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Zach, where can they follow you to hear some Lamine Yamal propaganda?
Follow me at Zach_Dworaczyk for some Joao Lara slander and for some Lamine Yamal propaganda.
That's what I love to hear. You can follow me at Rees11_. And it's a beautiful game, but it's way more beautiful when Joao Neves wins the Kopa trophy.